My parents threw me out with a note. It simply read, "Leave. We're no longer family." All because I wouldn't lend my sister $30,000 to start a coffee shop. A month later, at his 75th birthday party, my grandpa helped me get back at them with 3 special gift boxes he had prepared just for them. Hey, Reddit family. They say money is one thing that never turns its back on you, but mine did. Over $30,000. I never imagined a number could ruin relationships, but I learned the hard way. Money doesn't change people. It reveals them. My name's Daniel. I'm 29. For years, I lived with my parents while saving for my own home. I wasn't a freeloader. I paid rent, did chores, and helped my dad with bills when he fell behind. We were managing, nothing perfect, but we were a family. At least, that's what I thought. Then came my sister, Emma. She was always a favorite one. Spoiled, charming, and seemingly flawless. I loved her, but I knew her shortcomings. She never worked long enough to earn anything, and thought she could charm her way through every issue. One evening, she came home all excited. "Danny, guess what? I've got my big break. I'm opening a coffee shop." I smiled. "That's fantastic. Where?" She hesitated. "Well, here's the thing. I need a little help to get started." "How much?" "Just $30,000. I laughed at first, thinking she was joking, but her face was serious. "Emma, $30,000 isn't just a little help. That's my entire savings." She crossed her arms. "You have the money. You've been saving for years." "I'm saving for a house," I replied. Her tone sharpened. "You'd rather buy a house than help your own sister?" I sighed. "It's not about that. It's about responsibility. You've never run a business before." Her expression hardened. "You're unbelievable." Later that night, my parents called me downstairs. My mom looked furious. "Why would you turn your sister down like that? She's trying to do something with her life." I rubbed my temples. "Because I work for that money, Mom. It's mine. I'm not a bank." Dad crossed his arms. "We raised you to prioritize family. You become selfish." That word hit me harder than I expected. I replied quietly, "I've helped this family more than anyone, but I'm done being taken advantage of." As I turned to go upstairs, Dad snapped, "If you can't support your own blood, maybe you shouldn't live under our roof." I stopped. "What are you saying?" "Leave," he said coldly, "until you learn what family really means." That night, when I returned home from work, I found my belongings packed by the door, along with a note on the kitchen counter. It read, "Leave. We're no longer family." Signed by both of them. I stood there, reading it over and over, feeling a silence that didn't just hurt. It broke something inside me. I left without saying a word, and slept in my car that night. For a week, I stayed at a co-worker's place until I found a small apartment. It was empty and cold, but peaceful. I didn't reach out to them, not even when my mom texted, "We hope you've learned your lesson." Then, out of the blue, a month later, I received a call from my grandpa. He was turning 75 and wanted everyone to gather for his birthday. "Daniel," he said in his steady, aged voice, "I want you there. No excuses." I hesitated. "Grandpa, after what happened—" "I know what happened," he interrupted. "Just come, please." I couldn't say no to him. He was the only one who never took sides and always treated me fairly. So I showed up. As soon as I walked in, all eyes turned. My parents froze mid-conversation. My mom's smile faded, and Dad looked away. Emma smirked from across the room, whispering something to her boyfriend. Grandpa noticed the tension, but said nothing. He just smiled warmly. "My boy's home," he said as he hugged me tightly, and for the first time in weeks, I felt a sense of belonging. After dinner, Grandpa stood up with his cane and tapped his glass. "Before the cake, I prepared something special," he announced. 3 small gifts for 3 people who taught me lessons this year. Everyone leaned in, curious. He motioned for me, Mom, and Emma to stand next to him. 3 small boxes wrapped in gold paper sat on the table. He handed one to Emma first. "For you, my dear granddaughter. You remind me that dreams are valuable, but accountability is just as important. Emma smiled proudly and opened the box. Inside was a small toy coffee cup and a note. You can't pour from an empty cup, especially one you didn't earn. Laughter rippled through the room. Quiet, awkward laughter. Emma's smile vanished. Then Grandpa handed my mom her box. "For you, my daughter," he said softly. "To remind you that a mother's role isn't to choose sides, but to guide." Mom's face turned red as she opened it. Inside was a single coin and a short message. "You lost something priceless while chasing something cheap." Gasps filled the room as it went still. Finally, Grandpa turned to me, his eyes gentle. "And for you, Daniel, the one who stood alone but never lost his integrity." He gave me the last box. I opened it slowly. Inside was an envelope and a small house key. Confused, I looked up. Grandpa smiled. "That's the key to my old cottage. It's yours now. Use it well." I was speechless, tears filling my eyes as I hugged him. He leaned close and whispered, "Let them see what happens when decency wins over greed." Emma stormed out and Mom followed, embarrassed. Dad sat in silence, staring at his plate. But Grandpa just laughed softly and said, "Well, at least now it's a real family party." That night, as I stood outside holding that key, I realized something. Revenge doesn't always have to hurt. Sometimes the sweetest revenge is living well and letting your silence convey what words cannot. But that wasn't the end of it. 2 months later, Emma showed up at my new house, and Grandpa's plan still wasn't finished. When she walked in crying, holding an envelope from Grandpa marked, "For my final lesson," I realized the real twist hadn't even begun. It had been 2 months since Grandpa's 75th birthday, the day he taught everyone a lesson without raising his voice. After that night, I moved into his old cottage, fixed it up, and made it a home. It was small, cozy, and peaceful. Everything I had ever wanted. Life finally felt stable. Until one quiet evening, there was a knock at my door. I opened it, and there she was, Emma. Her eyes were red and puffy from crying. She looked nothing like the confident sister who had once mocked me. "Hey," she said softly. I crossed my arms. "Emma, what do you want?" She held out an envelope, yellowed and sealed with Grandpa's handwriting. It read, "For my final lesson to be delivered by Emma." I frowned. "Where did you get this?" Her voice cracked. "Grandpa passed away last week." The words hit me like a punch to the chest. I hadn't even known he was sick. I took the envelope, my hands trembling. Inside was a letter written in his neat script. "My dear Daniel, if you're reading this, it means my time here is done. Don't grieve too much. I lived a full life, and my greatest joy was seeing you become a man I always hoped you'd be. I left something for you and Emma to share. But before you open it, I want you to hear her side, because understanding someone's pain doesn't excuse their actions, but it helps you forgive them. You both needed lessons. You needed to learn to stand firm. She needed to learn to fall and rise again." I looked up at Emma, who was sobbing quietly. He knew everything she'd said about how Mom and Dad treated me and how I reacted. She sat down on the porch, her voice trembling. When he gave me that toy cup, I thought he was mocking me. But after his party, he called me and said, "That cup is empty, just like your excuses." He told me to fill it with real work, not expectations. She wiped her eyes. "So I did. I found a small cafe for sale. Grandpa helped me apply for a small loan. I've been working there every day since. No handouts, no shortcuts." I stared at her. For once, she looked sincere. "I came today because—" She paused, handed me a second, smaller envelope. "He wanted me to give you this, too." Inside was a photograph of Grandpa and me from years ago, taken when I was a kid helping him fix his old truck. On the back, he'd written, "My last investment in both of you." Below the photo was a folded check made out to both our names. $60,000. Emma gasped. "He split between us." I smiled through tears. "No, Emma. He connected us with it." For a long moment, neither of us spoke. Then she said quietly, "I'm sorry, Daniel, for everything, the money, the words, the way I let Mom and Dad treat you." I nodded slowly. I know you are, but you're not the only one who needs to forgive. She frowned. What do you mean? I've been angry for so long that I forgot what peace feels like. Grandpa wouldn't want to live like that. So I forgive you, Emma. She broke down crying, and for the first time in years, I hugged my sister, not out of guilt or obligation, but out of love. Later that night, after she left, I sat by the window with Grandpa's letter in my lap. He had left a postscript at the bottom. P.S. Daniel, that key I gave you at my birthday. Look on the floorboard near the fireplace. I got up, moved the rug, and pried up a loose wooden board. Underneath was a small metal box. Inside was another letter and a deed. The deed was for Grandpa's entire farm property, signed in my name. But the letter said, "This farm isn't a reward. It's a responsibility. Build something here that brings family together again. Maybe one day they'll remember what being a family means." Months passed. Emma's cafe began to thrive. We started working together. I fixed her delivery vans, and she catered for my staff. Slowly, my parents began to visit too, hesitant and awkward, but they came. The first time Mom walked into the cafe, she hugged me and whispered, "Your grandfather was right. We lost our way." Dad just nodded, his eyes filled with regret. We didn't need an apology. Their presence was enough. Every weekend, we all visited Grandpa's grave together. Emma always brought coffee, her own blend. She'd place a cup beside his headstone and say, "For you, Grandpa," the first man who believed in me. Standing there, watching her smile through tears, I finally understood Grandpa's brilliance. His 3 boxes weren't just gifts, they were lessons. One taught humility, one taught guilt, and mine taught forgiveness. That's how he got back at them, not through anger, but through wisdom. People say revenge is about making others pay, but Grandpa taught me something better. Real revenge is breaking the cycle and becoming everything they said you couldn't. Now, every morning when I open my garage and see the old key hanging by the door, I whisper to myself, "Thank you, Grandpa, for teaching me that family isn't just who stays when it's easy. It's who learns when it's hard." He didn't just give me a key to a house. He gave me the key to forgiveness.